This is the Aetheryte Greatsword, a one-of-a-kind weapon with incredible power. Its unique ability to strike multiple mobs at once makes it the ultimate choice for battles, where you get outnumbered. With this sword in my hands, taking on hordes of enemies or even entire groups of players will be so much easier. But there's a catch. The only way to obtain this legendary weapon is by winning this server-wide scavenger hunt, organised by the owner. To claim it, I'll need to track down a list of rare and valuable items. Sniffer eggs, beacons, totems, enchanted golden apples, and even deep slate coal ore, one of the rarest blocks in the entire game. I decided to start my scavenger hunt by collecting 6 enchanted golden apples. I need 1 for the Thing banner pattern and 5 more simply because they're incredibly rare. My first plan was to search for them in ancient cities, so I stopped by my raid farm to stock up on totems in case I encountered a warden. After carefully water bucketing into the heart of the city, I began my search. It didn't take long before I stumbled upon something interesting. The water armor trim. It's a cool find, but not quite what I was after, and definitely not as rare as the silence trim. I pressed on, hoping for better luck. Then, jackpot. I opened another chest and struck gold. 2 notch apples in a single chest. Alongside that, I found another ward trim and a Swift Sneak 2 book. Not wasting any time, I crafted an anvil right there and upgraded my leggings with the Swift Sneak. It wasn't quite Swift Sneak 3, but it still gave me a serious speed boost while sneaking. My luck didn't stop there. As I continued exploring, I found the really rare silence trim. It wasn't a notch apple, but it's one of the rarest trims in the game. A huge flex for anyone to have. Unfortunately, my luck turned when I got a little careless and I accidentally spawned in a warden. And that was my cue to leave. I made my way back home, now holding 2 out of these 6 enchanted golden apples that I needed. The hunt was off to a strong start, but there was still a long way to go. Next, I decided to try my luck in the trial chambers, and they're often a better source for notch apples. After completing a trial and earning a couple of keys, I realised that I'd made a crucial mistake. I was running regular trials. To get the notch apples, you need ominous keys, which can only be obtained from ominous trials, triggered by drinking an ominous bottle, which I hadn't bought any. Frustrated but determined, I headed all the way back to the raid farm to grab some ominous bottles, then made the long trek back to the trial chambers to finally start an ominous trial. The first 2 spawners gave me nothing good, no ominous keys, but I pressed on, and the 3rd spawner I finally got a key. Excited, I unlocked a vault and tested my luck, and there it was, my 3rd notch apple. Halfway there, but still a lot of work to do. I finished all the trials in this chamber, but didn't find any more notch apples, so it was time to move on to the next one. When I got to the next one, things were intense. There were 3 skeleton spawners, mobs were swarming me, and potions were raining down from the sky. It was chaos, but I survived. My reward? Not quite a notch apple, but it was the flow armor trim. It's a stylish and cool find, but wasn't what I was looking for. Just as I was beginning to lose hope, I stumbled upon another section of the trial chamber and hit the jackpot. 2 more notch apples. That brought me to 5 out of 6, only 1 more to go for the Thing banner pattern. Finally, I entered a 3rd trial chamber, determined to finish off what I'd started. On about the 3rd vault, I had found it, my final notch apple. With that, I left the chambers victorious, ready to continue the scavenger hunt. On the long journey back home, I stumbled across an ocean monument. Remembering that sponge was one of the items required for the list, I decided to check it out. Breaking into the monument, I quickly realised it had already been looted. The elder guardians were gone, meaning I couldn't get the tide trim, but most of the treasure was missing. Still, I wasn't ready to give up. I started breaking through walls, swimming through every corner of the monument, hoping for a stroke of luck. Just as I was about to leave empty-handed, I spotted it, a sponge room. I quickly collected up all the sponge I could, checking another rare item off the scavenger hunt list. Success. Next, I made a quick stop at the raid farm to grab an extra totem of Undying, as this was a required item on the scavenger hunt list. While I was there, one of my teammates, armed with a Silk Touch pickaxe, headed to a nearby deep slate coal ore vein that I had found earlier and went to mine it. while another teammate secured a conduit, and just like that, we ticked off 2 more items from the list. The finish line was getting closer every second. Back at the base, I carefully placed all the collected items into a chest, but before I could relax, chaos broke out. Our gold farm had overflowed and the base was swarmed with angry zombie pigmen. I had to jump in and help my teammate fend them off, bringing some order back to the chaos. After cleaning up the mess, we discovered another problem. Someone had taken the 4 wither skulls that we had earlier collected. No one came forward to explain their disappearance, so I had no choice but to head to the nether to get some more. I made my way to a nearby fortress where the blaze farm is, and I began hunting with the skeletons left and right. It didn't take long to get my first skull, or so I thought. I quickly realised I'd mistaken it for coal and I had left it on the ground. Luckily, just a minute later I got another skull. Confident the first one was already in my inventory, I ran over the top of it, only to realise that I hadn't picked up that one earlier. So shortly after, I killed another wither skeleton and got what I thought was my 3rd skull, and it was. This time, I checked my inventory and I didn't have any. Panic set in as I realised I had left the earlier skulls on the floor. I frantically tried to recover them, but was caught off guard by a skeleton hit, which knocked me off the fortress bridge and into the lava below. Acting on instinct and my quick bedwars reactions, I threw an ender pearl at the underside of the bridge, pulling myself out of the lava just in time. Scanning the area, I realised I was still too far from the fortress walls to land a clutch. Thinking fast, I threw yet another pearl to reset my fall, followed by one last pearl towards the wall. I managed to block clutch on the edge of the fortress, avoiding another plunge into the steaming lava below. Still on fire, I boxed myself in, knowing I could still die despite having totems. My health was dropping dangerously low, but I finally burnt out and survived, on just 5 hearts. I let out a sigh of relief, collected myself, and climbed out of my burrow. Unfortunately, I was still missing a 3rd skull, so I resumed the hunt. After some time and many more wither skeletons, I finally secured the last skull that I needed. After leaving the fortress, I made my way back to the base, where I began preparing to craft the next item on the scavenger hunt list, a lodestone. I smelted some ancient debris and stone, gathering the materials that I needed, but deep down I knew I was just stalling. The looming wither fight was making me quite nervous. On Bedrock Edition, the Wither is way more powerful than Java. It's twice as strong, it's wiped out some of the best Minecraft players, and I wasn't eager to add my name to that list. Oh, and did I mention, I've never beaten the Wither on Bedrock Edition before. To make the lodestone, I needed a netherite ingot, so I grabbed gold from the gold farm to craft it. Then, as an extra precaution, I decided to upgrade my gear further, adding the final enchantments to fully max out my armor. If I was going to face this wither, I'd need every advantage I could get. Finally, after much preparation, I crafted up the lodestone and another required item, tinted glass. My list was nearly complete, but the hardest challenge still lay ahead. Enough stalling, it was time to face the wither. I headed to a nearby cave, dug all the way down to Bedrock, and carved out a long tunnel to contain it. The plan was simple. The wither hopefully wouldn't be able to escape. But then again, neither would I. As I was making final preparations, I realised a critical mistake. I didn't bring a bow or milk. That meant there'd be no fighting it from a distance. I was going to have to purely kill it with my sword. With no turning back, I ate 4 golden apples, giving myself 8 extra hearts, and placed the final wither skull on the statue. The wither began to spawn in. This was it. This was go time. As soon as it powered up, I quickly downed a strength potion and charged in, guns blazing. I started critting it out, hit after hit, but then it made its move. The wither broke blocks furiously, trying to fly towards the surface. If it escaped, this fight would spiral out of control. I pushed hard, landing a critical hit just in time to bring it down to half health. That's when it went full demon mode, entering its 2nd phase, but that didn't faze me. I wasn't about to let up. I chased it down, landing critical hit after critical hit, until finally it exploded in defeat. I stood there, victorious, holding the nether star. The Bedrock Wither was supposed to be the ultimate challenge, but honestly, I only lost 3 hearts. Piece of cake. With the nether star in hand, I headed back to the base to craft the beacon. That was it. I'd done it. I'd gathered every item on the scavenger hunt list. I had won. Or so I thought. Turns out I'd forgotten something crucial, a sniff egg. The only way to obtain this is by brushing suspicious sand. So I quickly regrouped and began my search. First, I needed feathers to craft brushes. After tracking down some chickens and collecting enough feathers, I crafted a couple brushes and set off to find the egg. My first stop was a nearby trial ruin, which is full of suspicious gravel, because I thought you could get it from gravel, but you can't. I spent what felt like an eternity brushing the suspicious gravel, only to finally realize that it only comes from the sand, which only spawns in warm ocean ruins, not the trail ruin that I had been exploring. Frustrated but determined, I left the trail ruin and headed out to sea. After some time, I came across my first ocean ruin. I eagerly started brushing suspicious sand, but came up empty-handed. Even the nearby buried treasure offered nothing worthwhile. Refusing to give up, I swam further into the ocean, and eventually I stumbled upon another ruin. With new hope, I began brushing again and again. I searched every patch of sand I could find. Just as I was about to lose hope, I saw it, the sniff egg. I held it in my hands, knowing this was the final piece of the puzzle. I'd officially completed the scavenger hunt and won. It was finally time to collect my prize. I had done it. I had won the Aetheryte Greatsword, the only one on the server. With this powerful weapon, I could hit multiple mobs all at once, solidifying my place as one of the strongest players on the server. And it wasn't just about the scavenger hunt or the challenges I faced, it was about proving my skills and determination. Now with the Aetheryte Greatsword in hand, I was ready for whatever the server had in store next.